Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Diablo 4. This is my Necromancer and this is what I've used on the second day to unlock tier 4 with a super quick and effective setup. But if you're interested in using Blood Wave, you will require Kessime's Legacy, which basically sets up Blood Wave to be the two waves that come and slam them together with the scaling damage. You must first have this item if you're interested in this build. Before then, stick with Blood Surge. Not to mention, you're going to want Ultimate Shadow. Not to mention Fast Blood to keep spamming Blood Waves. But as you can see, if you do have it, it's pretty damn strong. This is me with a very jank, very undergeared, very minimal setup, just clearing into Torment 4. And on the boss, we hit it for just shy 2,000 million. As you can see, this is done with masterworking at 4 out of 12 of my items, as well as the basics of some tempering. We have two uniques in the build, which we'll talk about. And right now I'm level 91 on the Paragon, so I'm not far in at all. I've literally got 3 boards kind of almost set up. So the damage is going to scale ridiculously beyond what you're seeing now. But yeah, it's very simple and very effective. You're just spamming blood waves, running around, picking up loads of blood orbs, pulling things together, getting more blood orbs, and stacking up the damage around that with, say, Corpse Explosion, Blight, and of course, Decrepify. There's plenty of things that I've done to improve the quality of life in terms of the skill tree and such. So we're going to cover it all. So here's how it works just in a very simple way. You're taking blood waves and smashing them together to cram people into that. And as you can see, with this setup, it procs multiple times. You get 6 waves in that single use. This generates a ton of blood orbs through the passives. And as you pick these up, that helps reset your blood wave cooldown, thanks to Fast Blood aspect, but also Rathma's Vigor. The timer for the next guaranteed overpower gets reset or reduced by 2 seconds each time blood orbs heal or overheal you for 400 life. So by picking up these blood orbs, I'm basically restoring that next overpower, making sure the next blood wave is going to overpower. And as you can see, it generates a ton of blood orbs. Also with this setup, we use Corpse Tendrils with a specific passive that causes that to spawn blood orbs, which is Blighted. 35% chance to drop a blood orb when damaging enemy with Corpse Tendrils. You pull in a pack of enemies, you get a load of them. They give us a load of damage buffs as well by picking them up from, say, the Paragon. And that's healing and overhealing for Fortification. And Fortify gives us even more damage as well. Everything else around that is literally just setup. So obviously I'm applying Decrepify to apply the debuff. That helps with the CDR because we need to be restoring Blood Wave as fast as possible. We have Blood Mist, which is going to be a guaranteed way to generate a bunch of corpses to start a fight, which gives us a Corpse Tendril pull in. So we're guaranteed generating blood orbs. We guarantee generating more blood orbs with the wave itself. That gives us a really fast reset, which, by the way, as I get into the aspect section, the Fast Blood aspect I have is barely just above the lowest form, which is 1 second off the cooldown. At 2 seconds, you will half the amount of blood orbs you actually need, so you might have a significantly smoother experience than my initial one if you have even slightly good of a Fast Blood aspect. Outside of that, you know, we're pulling in and stunning with Corpse Tendrils. We've got a bit of extra shadow damage from the Corpse Explosion, and that will generate stuff in the Paragon when we have it, but also it gives us a nice perk of extra damage. And of course, Blight, which will put like little pools down under the enemies that you're fighting, making them take significantly more damage. So you're just setting up the pack, hitting them with some debuffs, and then slamming them with a blood wave, running around picking up blood orbs, and then slamming them with the next blood wave, so on and so on. Super simple, super strong. Let's talk about how you want to set this build up to make it functional so you can go straight to Torment 3 like I did. Right, here's the skill tree to begin with. Very quickly, you just need 2 dump points in the basic tree. It doesn't really matter where you're going with this. You're not really going to use it. Though I would recommend Reap as always because that can generate the guaranteed corpses if you go ahead and upgrade that with Acolytes. But I have another method for that, so I save the space there. On the next tree, we just get Hued Flesh for lucky at chance to spawn corpses, go Blight, and go straight to Supernatural. So we put Blight under targets so we deal significantly more damage to them. We kind of group enemies up, pop a Blight under them, and that gives us that big damage boost. You don't really want to be spamming it, you want to be using it with like that kind of intent. Anyway, on the next tree we have the Blood Mist for the utility, the survivability that provides, but also we take that straight to Ghastly. This is great because it makes it a movement speed skill, so you can use it to get around, which is phenomenal. This is with the changes that we've had. But also, obviously, this spawns corpses, which is a way to set up a fight and make sure that you have them, so you can pull the pack of enemies in and generate a load of blood orbs to reset your cooldown if you need to. I have this set up for open world, clear, and general gameplay. It's a significant quality of life improvement. However, Dreadful Blood Mist shouldn't be ignored either. It gives you loads of crit strike chance and damage. It's pretty insane. I'd rather be running that for the output that will provide. But, you know, for the current very clunky starter setup that got me to Torment 3, this is just a much better option. Because it also generates that vulnerable for enemies that I actually pass through, which is pretty cool too. But yeah, that corpse gen's really important. Anyway, on that note, we have 1 level Corpse Explosion to Blighted. This just gives it a darkness skill tag, which is important, as I'll talk about. but also it's just a nice way to make Corpse Explosion deal some damage. Really, we're just popping a Corpse Explosion for that goop on the ground, and then Fueled by Death, which gives us a nice 6-second damage buff after we pop an explosion. Also, once we actually progress in the Paragon mod, I'm going to reach for Corpse Eater, so popping corpses to generate a big damage bonus, also relevant. Here we have a few passives, as you can see. Firstly, we have Spiked Armor, which gives us a lot more armor at the time. This is something that you will completely cull from the build once you have capped armor. Obviously, right now, standing in Torment 3 with my jank setup that got me there, I don't have that. So running that passive actually is really helpful. So consider Spiked Armor while you're under-armored at this time. Anyway, we also take Titan's Fall. While fortified, which we are a lot, we get a big damage bonus to elites, and then 1 point in Necrotic Fortitude, since it's going to give us a bit of a barrier on a % chance. Just having that unlocked is nice. On the next tree, obviously Decrepify, Abhorrent, helps with the resetting of cooldowns, very important for the build. Everything's going to be cursed, so amplified damage. As usual, Death's Embrace, it's damage reduction for enemies that are close to us, and we deal damage to them. We're going to be close to enemies with this build. Lucky Hit Chance, we need a lot of that, so the new passive from last season, Precision Decay. And that's the next tree. So, of course, we go Corpse Tendrils, bring that to Blighted, so it's a Blood Orb generator, as I said. And then we're going to go Coalesce Blood and Ties of Blood to maximize our damage while healthy and overpower output. On the Shadow Tree, I've got 3 out of 3 Reaper's Pursue. This is nice quality of life, giving us a lot more movement speed based on the amount of darkness skills we have in the action bar. Now, based on what we've got with our setup, we actually have 3 of these. So Blood Wave becomes a darkness skill, as I just showed with Corpse Explosion, that's a darkness skill, and of course we have Blight, which is another darkness skill. So we got 3 of them on our bar. And maybe if you're using Reap like I suggested, you might even have a 4th. So that's 6% movement speed per. It's 18% extra movement speed. Amazing. And then 18% times more damage in general. Awesome. With that though, obviously max out Gloom and Terror to maximize our output with the darkness skills. And then we have the ultimate tree, where we're maxing out Blood Wave and going all the way through Prime and Supreme. This is what's causing those Blood Orbs to guarantee spawn where we put Blood Waves down. Very important. Anyway, there's that passive introduced last season, Finality. We get big damage bonus after casting an ultimate skill. So you want to cast the initial Blood Wave, reset your cooldown, cast the next one as fast as possible. We're also sacrificing all our minions, so Memento Mori, standalone, usual stuff. And then the key passive, Rathma's Vigor. I also should mention that there's another skill point thing that I'd like. Probably when I take out the Thorned Armor thing, I'll probably put it here, Inspiring Leader, helping me with Crit Strike Chance, which is certainly nice. But that's the skill tree, now the Book of the Dead. We go Reapers for their sacrifice. Increased shadow damage, obviously very important since we're dealing that with Blood Wave now. Skeletal Mages or Bone for increased overpower damage for obvious reasons. And Iron Sacrifice for critical strike damage, pretty much what you take every time. Right, quickly as well, we've got the Paragon. This is a very basic setup. Think of this as min-maxing my points, but is far from what I would ideally do. It's just where I'm at now and could be a thing for you to follow. So on the first board, I just want the most effective raw output. If you're starting with nothing, you can go with Eliminator like I did initially. We all get that, right? Is at least something. But right now on my first board, I've got Amplify. We're cursing everything with Decrepify, so they're all taking this increased damage. It's a very effective and easy one to get active, even before it's level 15, because there's so much intelligence on this first board. Anyway, I set it up like this, making sure to pick up resistance to elements on the way, and then we move on to the first board extension, which is Blood Begets Blood. We're getting tons of Blood Orbs from this, obviously, and this is a big damage multiplier as you continuously pick them up. So if you keep this up, for the next 5 seconds, your next Blood Wave, super strong. Here we have the Sacrificial Glyph. It's very simple. Again, another damage multiplier that's just going with really no conditions. We just need to get 40 intelligence, which can be very easily done on this board with the rare nodes that are also relevant to damage while healthy and blood damage. But then we come over to the final board I'm at right now, which is the next one, Bloodbath. Massive increases to overpower. This is ridiculously impactful, so obviously we want that. And then on the glyph, it's a bit jank right now. I've got Undaunted. This will go in a different board where it's a lot easier to get willpower, but I wanted that damage reduction for while I was doing Torment 4, and just, you know, existing in Torment 4 initially is tough, so that DR is very important. But this plays into, you know, the build. We also get damage while fortified. We're fortified a lot, so it's just a nice pickup. But yeah, definitely will place Undaunted somewhere else. But for now, I'm just picking up the rare nodes finally after getting the willpower to actually get this activated. But yeah, next we're going to go into our fourth board, which I'm planning on doing Scent of Death for some extra damage reduction. And then I'm going to clean the whole thing up and come back soon with that updated version. Next up, let's cover the gear and try to be smooth with this. Just know that I didn't do any tempering or masterworking, literally 0 to get into Torment 3, but for Torment 4, I needed the help of masterworking tempering, and it's not that expensive to do. By that point, you should have the resources. Running down the list then, we have Juggernauts for armor, just to pump that number up, get over the cap. We will weave this out of the build once we're okay on armor. Hardened Bones, obvious choice, great damage reduction. Ultimate Shadow, required for the build to make the waves darkness. Obviously, Kessime's Legacy for the pants, and Yen's Blessing. This is temporary. It gives us a load of element resistance to all elements. So right now, it's like getting us close to where we need to be. It's a great stat stick for early season gameplay, but I will remove it once I'm on top of my resistances as well. Unfortunately on the weapon, we're currently holding a two-hand sword because it's just the best thing I've got right now. We'd rather have a hammer for the inherent overpower damage, but this does the job. Either way, you want Tidal on the weapon for the extra waves and the massive damage increase. Be aware that you can't recast Blood Wave until the last waves end with this aspect, but with the way we're running around picking up blood orbs anyway in between each cast, this doesn't matter. It's only really a positive. On the amulet, we have Grasping Veins. This is nice for a burst of crit strike chance and damage, but another option you could go for here is Sacrificial for the raw power increase that provides for, you know, the Book of the Dead. But I like Grasping Veins for now. I'll probably change this to Sacrificial though. On the rings, we have Vehemence just for the big ultimate damage increase and ultimate skill ranks. And then we have Fast Blood, obviously, to make the build work, actually reduce the ultimate cooldown when we're picking blood orbs up. This is a really low roll. If you had 2 or even 3 seconds, it'd be majorly helpful. In terms of affixes, don't overcomplicate this. You want max life, intelligence, and armor on everything you can get until you're at the cap, say, of armor. Max life gives you survivability and overpower potential, so it's great. Also, we want to be looking for element resistance on our helmet and chest piece to help us get to the caps, wherever, whatever you need. On the gloves, I've also got a bit of crit strike chance just to help with that, but we've got a lot to clean up here. We can't really talk about uniques, so on the weapon, we have Intel, max life, and overpower damage. On the amulet, this is terrible. I've got Intel and max life and a dead thing, it doesn't matter, life per second. What we would like is the most impactful passives we can think of. So that would be priority 1, Tides of Blood, levels of Coalesce Blood, and then you got things like Gloom and Terror, probably Gloom more than Terror, as things that could be great to have in your amulet for passives like that. Otherwise, you know, you'd be looking for cooldown reduction and armor and whatever relevant thing you can have for your build. We can't really be choosing too specifically when we're barely getting like set up right now. For the rings though, we have Intel, max life, and overpower, but also a % chance to make enemies vulnerable. We don't have great vulnerable, reliable generation right now, so having this on at least one ring is pretty important if you can get it. In terms of tempering, just getting armor and everything so you get to the cap is what I go for on defensive slots. Max life is still useful though. Utility in Corpse Tendril size or Curse size would be great too. On the offensive slot of gloves, you make sure you go for blood. That can increase overpower and blood damage stuff. On the weapon, chance for Blood Wave to deal double damage is very important. And then universally, damage while fortified is going to be great. On the jewelry though, it's pretty specific. Ultimate cooldown reduction, ultimate cooldown reduction, ultimate cooldown reduction. And then blood overpower, damage while fortified, you know, the blood tempering. And I've got total armor on my amulet to help me get cap. So this is just what I've got to get things started. They're all masterworked at 4 out of 12. Get everything to 4 out of 12. In terms of gems and runes, we have, say, intelligence in the armor, and I've just got whatever runes I've got. They're not amazing, but yes. Cast Ultimate is a great option for us since we're doing that load to generate offering. And we've got Gar here just for the extra crit strike chance that provides while we're really low on that stat. I would much rather have the rune that provides extra max life when you generate the offering, because that'd be relevant for this build, but I don't yet have it. The other setup that I have is also kind of meh. Cast Evade is good for generating, you know, offering for us. We're doing a lot. Whereas Lack is literally just the damage reduction of doing this Barbarian roll is nice when I don't really have a better option. We're going to clean this up as well in the next update. In terms of the jewelry though, you're going to go with occult gems ideally, but right now it's whatever resistances and maybe armor you need, since I'm only barely getting started with what options I have for the occult gems. So let's talk witchcraft powers and of course gems. First up, we have some relevant things and some irrelevant stuff. So Doom Orb is great for now. It's just a good raw damage increase. We can get it immediately, so do that. But obviously the Piranha Nado is going to be way better for pulling enemies in and such. Aura of Siphoning, amazing. It's just dealing great damage around you permanently. And when you get to rank 10, that's going to give you a heal. So I actually want to get this to rank 10 as soon as I can. Speaking of which, I have enough rot to get it up a rank. Cool. Next, we have Soul Harvest, giving us more primary stat, aka intelligence, as we're spamming them with the blood waves. Awesome. Then we've got Force of Will, increasing our overpower damage by clearing mobs, which is great. Then we got two kind of dead ones, Hex of Flames and Firebat Servants. It's just what I've got because I don't really have a choice. Right now, as I'm talking to you in this video, they removed Hex of Whispers from the game. There was some sort of bug with it, but we want it because it generates Fortify, which we want, but I can't physically get it, so it's kind of annoying. So know that I want that. And then I'm looking for lost powers like specialization of hexes and auras, which I currently don't have yet. Also something I don't have is the occult gems. There's quite a few good options. The ones that I have right now out of these, I'd be looking at Phantom String, increasing my overpower to debt to hexed enemies. And Wicked Pact isn't a bad one either. We don't have it in the list right now, but the one that I'm looking at to find is Friend of the Bog though. That one where you got 3 or more growth and decay witch powers equipped, we just gain primary core stat and max life, as well as unhindered. More max life means more survivability and overpower, as we've been saying, and more intel, amazing. There is another one that I'd like as well, which is Voice of the Stars. Just having an aura active, it means that your ultimate, the Blood Wave, just gets the tag of Eldritch, Growth and Decay, and Psyche, which is amazing. And then that means we can enhance our output with that. But it's also just a straight damage increase for ultimate skills, so it seems an obvious choice as well. Right, last thing to quickly mention then is the awkward mercenary setup. These are the two that I recommend to you, Subbo and Rahir. I actually recommend Rahir over Subbo though, when you're initially gearing up and undergeared. The reason for that, when you have Rahir as your main guy, you get Rahir's Aegis, which basically gives you 15% resistance to all elements. Amazing, super helpful. When we're so low on the resistances, this can get you to cap, which, say, standing here, has get me almost to cap in Torment 3 with basically nothing to help but the unique boots, so that's awesome. Not to mention, you can also pop on Bastion, which can be a damage increase as well as the Ground Slam. So I think he's very good as an initial starter, kind of helping you get going mercenary. And I would run him over one that's technically going to give you more output when it's too early. The one that we would think about for technically more output then is obviously Subbo, because he has passives related to overpower. So those affected by his explosive charges take increased overpower damage. So for output, Subbo. For a defensive nature, Rahir. But I recommend him as you're initially getting started either way. But yeah, there you have it. That's my overview of the setup that I ran and set up to do Torment 4, and at least get into the endgame to start the true farming and endgame experience. With an incredibly jank setup, just the basics of the aspects and the unique that make it work, and now it's going to be all about cleaning it up and maximizing it, making the gameplay smoother and so on. I hope this was the information you were looking for what is going to be one of the top builds of the season, and I'll be back very soon for the proper endgame version with all the real information you're going to need. I just need to put some time in, so I'll be back when I've done that. For now then, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.